Well, I am in the wonderful garden center of Terra Gardens here in Salem. I'm with Dan. And Dan, I want to talk about fruit trees because this is the time of year when really, if you're going to plant them, it's the perfect time to plant them. But first of all, you guys have such an amazing selection here. Let's talk about that a bit.
We do. We have about 150 varieties
Wow.
of fruit trees. And that's kind of unusual in today's day and age where everybody's reducing quantities.
Right.
We found that a lot of people have been coming here looking for the unusual. So we have common things like this cherry tree, and we have a lot less common things like jujube and persimmons, things that you don't see just everywhere.
You even have pawpaws, which I love those.
Yeah, we were just looking at the blooms
Yeah,
on the
right.
pawpaws. Yeah, they're a wonderful fruit.
So the selection is great and it is fun and it can open up your garden to new flavors and tastes. But then, there's also some questions that people have about fruit trees. There was a time when they were big. All of them just were big. But let's talk about grafts and why they're important and how they happen.
Well, one of the most important things is that they're basically putting two trees together. You have a rootstock
Right.
and the tree. And so this particular tree is a Stella cherry, but the rootstock is going to be a different type of cherry that helps to dwarf the tree. It gives it a little bit of disease resistance. And in Oregon, something very important, it helps resist the amount of wet, heavy clay soil that we
Wonderful.
have. So the tree will grow better here. Now, one of the things that is important to understand is this graft junction has to remain above ground, because if you bury the graft junction, you've lost it.
Right.
This part of the tree will then root out, or you could suffocate the trunk of the tree altogether and lose your baby tree.
So then let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we plant fruit trees. I see that you have a bag of soil here, but do you need a massive hole? Do you need tell me about planting them.
One of the things that I like to tell people is dig a hole about twice the width of the container that you're planting. Understand that with a lot of these trees, when you start to pull it out of the pot, soil may fall away, but
Right,
we want to keep
right.
the soil as intact as possible. We're not looking at lacerating roots with a knife or chopping it up or anything. Keep it whole, keep it together, put it in the hole, and your drainage is really important. Remember, we don't want to stack dirt up against the trunk or soil. We want it to be right about where it is in the container. So we don't want to change that planting depth. If you change the planting depth, you change the nature of the tree and you ruin the graft.
So this level right here in the pot that you buy the tree in, that's the level you want to keep your soil once you plant it.
Either even with it, or have the outside soil, the regular soil of your ground, even an inch lower so that this is slightly above. If you've ever done much gardening in the Willamette Valley, you find that as soon as winter comes, a single shovelful of soil and that little hole that you made will fill up with water because our groundwater is so high and it rains so constantly. If this tree was sitting here and the ground soil was just a little above it,
You're just gonna
during
flood
the
it.
first summer, it makes it easier to water. During the wintertime, it never drains and the tree will actually drown
Right.
its first winter.
So I suspect that people are going to want to put these in their garden and expect fruit this year. What is the realistic expectation of that?
Well, that's one of the unfortunate things is that trees have to mature before they start producing good fruit. And while it is possible
Right.
that a baby tree will produce fruit, realistically you're looking at 2 to 3 years out on a good sized tree like this before it starts producing fruit. Little tiny trees take longer yet. They have to mature so that the root system and the structure of the tree will be able to support the fruit that it's going to give you.
So let's also talk about compost. A lot of people want to put stuff on their gardens, on their beds and perennials, all of that stuff. Sometimes I've seen like sawdust and bark dust a foot tall put on later on in life. You really don't want them to do that.
Yeah, it's really bad for trees. Trees have to actually breathe just like we do, but they
Right.
breathe through their trunk, through their roots, through their leaves. And it's surprising to a lot of people that the woody parts of plants have to breathe too. And if you bury it, you will suffocate the tree.
Yeah.
The bare minimum is that you'll cause a very difficult growing situation for the tree.
Right.
It kind of looks cool sometimes to have a big mound, but that mound should come to about here, not up here.
Well, there's all kinds of things that we love in gardens, and certainly having fruit trees is one of the biggest ones I enjoy. So if you're thinking about fruit trees, if you want to add to some that you already have, go to gardentime.tv. We'll click over to their website. You can come out, talk to them, make sure you start it right, and then harvest those wonderful fruits later. Thank you so much, Dan.
It's a great thing. Thank you.